Hi, welcome everybody.
Hi.
Okay, just a few more minutes, guys. We'll go ahead and get started. Just a second. A few more people trying to join.
You too. Bye. Hey guys.
Hello.
How's everybody doing today?
Not bad.
Doing good.
Awesome. Sorry for my tardiness. I was just hopping off of the Via Williams Ben Kinney mastermind, but from 12 to 1. And I had a guest with me. It was really fun. It was a super good mastermind. Have you guys all been getting the emails like for they're every Wednesday at noon? Not that you guys want to do them right now during your launch quarter, but I would keep them in the back of your head as something to do moving into next quarter. Such good information. I took a million notes. Okay, so here is what we are going to do today. I have you guys on my cell phone. So in the interest of time and space, and so we can get right into the content of today's class, I'd love it if you would put your accountability into the chat. Yep, Natalie, you had it. Go ahead and just do new contacts, any appointments set, any wins, throw those into the chat. And then if anyone has any specific questions around their lead generation time, we'll do a little bit of that. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Heather. Noe, excellent. Michaela, Sam, Tori, awesome. Excellent. Alex. Excellent. Good job, guys. Wonderful. Okay. Out of all of your lead generating the past couple of days, anyone have any appointments set, things they're excited about, wins they'd like to share with the group? Feel free to unmute and speak up. So, okay. Okay, nobody wants to talk today. I get it. It's all good.
It's okay, I will.
Awesome.
All right, so today I got my farm. I put a lot of this in the chat, so I'm sorry for the repeat. And my farm exists in Roseburg, and technically speaking, it would be like 3 farms. But she told me about, I'm very excited because she told me about this website, which I'm pretty sure would only be effective if you have a farm. So if anyone wants that info, I will send it to them. It's called Corefact. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Corefact.
Yes.
Yes.
So amazing, right? Like it sends out mass postcards, and each has an individualized code. So anybody who logs onto the site to see how much their house is worth will let me immediately know that they did that, and that generates an automatic lead for me. So really excited about that.
Yeah, it does. It makes it super trackable. What she's talking about, it's a QR code. So it's like scannable from anybody's smartphone, and it takes them directly to the site where they can actually request like a home valuation. So it's basically a lead magnet, but it turns a direct mail into something that's definitely measurable and trackable. I do love it. How much is it cost per card?
83 cents.
83 cents. So it's a little bit high. One of the things you could also try is in Command, we have software to also send postcards, and they've actually negotiated a pretty good discount, and you can get really specific on where you want to send them. And those are trackable as well, or you can like toggle it to create it as a trackable postcard. So the lead dumps right into your Command database.
Oh, that would be even easier.
Yeah, and I want to say, I think those postcards for like a smaller, the 4x6 size is like 55 cents.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure. I haven't actually been on there because I've had a very packed morning, and I just found out about it today. So, so when I get more info, I'll let you guys know. But the where do I get that on Command? Would it be on Connect or?
It's under campaigns. So if you just go to the agent.kw.com, that's the Command website, your database, right? Same place you go on tax and designs, but it's an applet on the left-hand toolbar. It's called campaigns. And when you click on it, it like opens the window and it gives you a couple of options. Well, it's print or direct mail that you choose. Maybe you choose print and then mail. And then it's preloaded with tools like similar to what you'd get at the title company, where you can select on a map the area and then say, you know, has owned for more than 7 years, more than 1,500 square feet, you know, yada, yada. And it will like narrow down so that you don't have to send to like everyone in that neighborhood. You can just pick the ones that would be likely to sell.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's excellent.
That's just a little nugget. But really similar to Core Fact. I love it for geographic farming. Anyone else with a, and like, that's amazing that you're working through getting your farm set up. Really, really good. Hopefully I'll save you some money. Anyone else? That's good. Everyone's ready to learn. Well, the topics over the next 4 classes are amazing because they're listing focused, which is obviously what we all really want to know about right now in this market. So I'm super stoked that we're, you know, going into the listing unit. I'm going to pop over to my text messages. So if you lose me on video, it's because I want to make sure that I can introduce our instructor, Stephanie Coates. She'll be teaching you guys today around pricing strategy. Of course, the class is called Price to Sell. A little bit about Stephanie is that she began her real estate career in September of 2006, and she was 18 years old. She's been on the ALC for 8 years, and in 2016, she earned her principal broker's license. Then in 2019, she sold over 50 homes. And in 2018, she also received the Eugene's 20 Under 50 Rising Business Star Award. So she is an amazing coach for you. Talking today all about strategies on how to price your listings to sell. Stephanie, are you with us?
Yes, I am here.
Amazing. I am going to make sure that I have these settings set up for you correctly really quick. Are you on your own Zoom account, or are you on as a KWES co-host?
KWES.
Okay, perfect. Do you know how to rename yourself? Can I walk you through it? Okay, perfect. I get all confused when we're both sharing the same account, and I'm like, which one of us is the co-host and which one of us is the real? Okay, perfect. So you're already the primary host. That's beautiful. I'm going to take these screenshots for attendance really quick, and then I'm going to let you take it away. Go right ahead, Stephanie. Thank you so much.
Okay, cool. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to teach a class today. I've had the opportunity to teach this one, Price to Sell, many times before, and I will tell you that as our market has become more robust and our inventory has gotten lower, it's become a very different class. So I don't know, maybe a show of hands, how many of you have like taken a listing already? I just kind of like to know my audience. Okay, so it looks like maybe some of you have not yet. So I guess I just like to kind of know, I don't like to bore you with information if you guys are already doing this, or kind of see where you're at. So typically what I would begin to do in the listing process is I kind of start with some information gathering. And I'm really kind of gathering information on both the property, but then also on who my potential client is going to be as well. And we'll talk about why that might be important to me. So first, what I do, I'm gonna try to share my screen here and kind of go through like my process. So hold on a moment. I'm going to figure this out. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Yes, okay, good. All right, we did it this time. Okay, so I recognize that many of you are not necessarily in Lane County and might be a little bit further up north or even south of here. So I will just tell you the first kind of thing that I would do would be to access county records. And so in Eugene, Springfield, Lane County, we would utilize what's called RLID. And if you are in our market center, I would definitely suggest that that would be something you should sign up for so that you have access to it. It's going to provide a lot more information than what you will be able to access just in the multiple listing system, and then also, you know, on your own. So definitely would highly recommend it. It's something basically like a list kit that the title company can provide, but you can access it any time of the day or night, and you can get a lot more data from this as well. So highly recommend that. So first thing that would happen is typically, you know, typically I get like an incoming phone call from somebody that would say that they wanted to list their home. So theoretically, someone would call, they'd say, hey, Stephanie, we're interested in selling. And so I'd say, okay, great. And so while I'm on the phone with them, ideally, I can kind of start pulling this information up so that we can go over it. So I am going to pretend that Annette Ortega is who has contacted me to list her home. So Annette is calling. And so what I would do while I'm on the phone is I would go ahead and pull up Annette's home. And I do happen to know what it is. So it is here on Llama Lane. And so here we have Jose and Annette Ortega. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click this to open up.
Quick, so I'm at Sunset Corridor. Do you happen to know the Multnomah and or Washington County equivalents of this? I just Googled it and it just came up a generic RLID, and I don't know if that's.
You know, I would probably ask maybe your team leader, or I can see if Mara might know. I'm sure there is an equivalent of like your county records of how to access all this stuff. But I don't know what it would be.
If anybody else, I think it might be OregonMetro.gov. That sounds like this could be promising. That's where I'm at right now.
For those of you in, for those of you in Central Oregon, this should be dial.deschutes.org. For those of you in the Bend, Central Oregon area.
Okay, so we've got a dial.deschutes.org, and then what did you think yours was for Portland?
I'm not sure. Well, I'm at OregonMetro.gov right now, but I don't.
Okay.
I'm just looking through it. I don't know.
I don't know, but I can sure ask her. I'm sure like your team leader would probably know what that would be. So in any case, okay, can you see my news screen now? What I'm looking at? Okay, so so in probably any of them, you'll be able to pull up some sort of a PDF of the property that is in question. So the things I want to look for on this are, I would kind of look through here. Well, I've got Annette on the phone. Ideally, I would just try to confirm some of this information. So I'd say, okay, Annette, so I just pulled up your property here on county record. So it looks like it's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's 1,242 square feet. Does that sound about right to you? And while I'm looking, I'm kind of looking for two things. Yes, I'm looking to confirm that that information is accurate. And a couple of things I'll tell you, especially like speaking from Lane County experience anyway, a lot of our records, they were not, a lot of Eugene was in the county before it was annexed into the city. So a lot of times if you have an older home, like pre-1970s or so, sometimes maybe it has more bathrooms or bedrooms than what is noted here. It doesn't necessarily mean it was not permitted. It just could mean that maybe when the records were switched over, it wasn't updated correctly in the system because it went from a county to city. And of course, that was way back in the 70s, and maybe their record keeping wasn't necessarily what it might be today. So I would maybe just make you aware of that. And I would have to suspect that in some of the other counties too, and a lot of the other places, I mean, you guys have homes that were built, you know, in the 1900s even. So again, record keeping back then was maybe not what it is today. So I would probably be even more careful about screening and asking these questions up front. the older the property is, because the less likely this is accurate. And again, it doesn't mean it's not supposed to be there. It doesn't mean it's not permitted. It could just mean they just didn't record it correctly when they did it. The worst case of this that I had seen was county records indicated the property was a 2-bedroom house and it was like 900 square feet. And I didn't do my screening well enough. And I got out there and it was 7 bedrooms and it was like 4,000 square feet. So the issue you're going to run into is you're going to be so excited to go out to this listing and you didn't ask your questions right. And so you did your CMA based upon your 2-bedroom house and you show up and everything's wrong because we didn't ask the right questions up front. So I would totally recommend just, doing kind of all this legwork like before you go. That way, in your preparation, you're really going to be able to bring things to the table that are going to be of value, and not, make it look like, you didn't know what you were doing or confuse everybody. So in this situation, I look here to see, okay, Annette, it looks like it's a 3-bedroom, it's a 2-bath. Is that all correct? Yes. And it's about 1,242 square feet. Does that sound about right to you? And it looks like it's built in 05. And how Annette answers the question is the other thing I'm looking for here. So I want to upfront figure out, who am I dealing with? Is she a D and I an S or a C? And I suspect that you guys have gone over some of the DISC personality profiling already in this class, a little bit. Okay, well, the point is, if Annette answers this question really quick and she cannot wait to get off the phone with me, she is a D. Okay, she has no idea. It is a house. I don't know. Come sell it, right? Yeah, sure. Yep. All right. I don't know. Sounds good. If she is an S, she is going to be very quiet. She's going to be timid. She's going to be scared. She's going to say, well, I think so. Yeah, that sounds right. If she's a C, she's going to argue with me. She is going to tell me it is not 1,242 square feet. It is actually 1,247 square feet. And when I ask my follow-up questions about, what type of improvements have you made to the house, she's going to answer that very differently as well. That's how I'm going to know it's a C. She is going to argue with me. She's going to correct me. And she's going to tell me my information is incorrect. And it maybe not, I don't really know, but that's just how C's operate. And I is going to giggle a lot. They're going to be really happy and excited. And they're going to be like, yeah, it sounds all good to me. So that's how I'm going to know. And why I care about that is because when I do my presentation and when I bring stuff to their property, when we set up the appointment that is going to follow this conversation now, I want to make sure that I'm not going to bring stuff that's going to be super invaluable to them or irritate them. So for a D, if I brought them a whole bunch of stuff with pictures and all, they would just literally throw it away. Like, they do not care, just come here and sell my house. A C, I had better come prepared with some spreadsheets, a lot of data, and I had better know what I'm talking about, because they are going to argue with me again, and they're going to make me validate the data that I bring. That's what they do. And I better have a lot of pictures. They are really not going to care what I bring. So it's not really, the content is not going to be important. It's just going to have to be pretty, and I'm going to have to come in a really good mood, and we're probably not even going to talk about the house, because they're going to want to talk to me about their vacation and their dog and everything else in their life. That's how they operate, right? An S, they're probably going to want more information, but they just want to feel comfortable. Like, so how I tailor the rest of my presentation from here on out very much is going to depend on who I'm meeting with, and that's what I'm trying to figure out in this call. The next couple things that I'll start asking, I will go down here, and in our area anyway, we're able to see flood zones. So this is definitely like an important thing. So FEMA flood hazard code. So here it indicates it's an area X, which is outside of the 500-year flood. So we're cool. In a lot of areas here, and I suspect in other areas, certainly in Portland and maybe Deschutes and other places, sometimes you will find properties that show that they are in a flood zone. So the next question that I'd want to ask in that case would be, okay, and do you guys, I notice it's in flood zone AE, do you pay flood insurance? And they might say yes, and if so, I'd want to know, okay, do you know approximately how much you pay? With that answer, I'm just going to note that. Why that's important is because oftentimes properties that have flood insurance, the new purchaser is going to have to also pay flood insurance in the event that they get a loan. And so, there's some flood insurance, depending on the zone, that can be outrageously expensive. and therefore cause the buyer to not qualify anymore because they have to qualify for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And that insurance is going to include flood insurance. So if it's more than just a general homeowner's policy, and it's going to include, sometimes it can be like $6,000 a year. Like it can be crazy expensive. So you'll want to know that up front and then probably also factor that into the price if it's something really, really outrageous. If they answer that question and they tell me, no, it's not in a flood zone, then my follow-up question would be, and do you have a mortgage on the property? Because if I see that it is in this flood zone here and they tell me they don't pay flood insurance, either they have what's called an elevation certificate and it's been removed from the flood zone and they don't pay it, or they have their house paid off and they have no idea that it's in the flood zone. So, and just so you guys are aware, so FEMA redid their maps about 12, 15 years ago. And so there's a lot of properties that were not previously in a flood zone that are now. And so for people that, let's say they bought their house 40, 50 years ago, they've paid it, it's long since been paid off, or they paid cash for it and they never had a reason to go look into this. It could be, and the new purchaser may have to carry that, but they may have no idea about that. So that's just something else I want to look at because that is going to impact our value and what we do there. So just quick little note on that. The last thing that I look for down here is I look to see in our area up at the top, you'll see who the owners are. So you'll see Jose Dario Ortega and then Annette. And so I just want to make sure down here in the taxpayer section, it shows the same people. Now, where it might show different people would be sometimes, let's say a parent co-signed for a child to purchase property. And so in that case, it might only be the kid's name up at the top, but down here in the taxpayer name, it's going to show both people. I care about that because if they're both on here on the taxes, or maybe they're both on the loan, but only one's on title or vice versa, they both are going to have to sign my listing documents and they're going to have to sign at closing. So where this becomes an issue is couple ways. Number one, it could be, parent co-sign for kid. Most of the time they're going to be amicable and will, get off title and whatnot. If they were willing to help the kid out, they're probably going to be willing to help them sell the property. If somebody has passed away, I want to know that now because obviously they're going to be unable to sign my papers. But why that's important is if they're still on title or still a taxpayer and they are deceased, when you get to closing, the seller actually does have to bring the actual original death certificate to closing. And so there's a lot of people that you want to make this process as easy as possible. And so sometimes if you fail to let them know about that up front, then they're already in a stressful spot. They're selling the house, which is stressful. They're packing everything up. They don't know where anything is. And then at the 11th hour, right before closing, you drop this bomb that, oh, by the way, I need you to find this very important document and you can't sell your house without it. So it's a point of stress. So you want to kind of let them know that now. The other thing, and this is something that I had happen to me a couple years ago, is it was a parent had passed away. She was elderly, had like 5 children. And she had passed like years before, like 7, 8 years. And the kids had lost track of this. Nobody knew really who had it or where it was. Anyway, at the closing, we had to get this document. And no one could find where it was, and you do need the original. And we were supposed to close in like a week. Well, the only way you can get a new original is you have to contact DHS, and then they have to send you a new original. And as you might imagine, DHS really doesn't care that your closing is next week. You're going to be in line like everybody else. So it ended up delaying our closing. So these are just the types of things that I would look at upfront so that you could like start that process now before it's listed. And when you close in 30 days, you'll have better luck of having that then. The final situation where this is sometimes an issue and people don't understand that I've run into is in the event that there was a divorce. So a lot of times in a divorce situation, they will have a divorce decree that will name a certain spouse, give them the home. And so that's all well and good. And legally, yes, it is that person's property. However, the only way to get them actually off of the deed would be that the other spouse had to refinance the property to get them off. Well, some people don't get that. So they think, oh yeah, my divorce decree, it says I got the house, means that you're off it. Well, no, you're actually not. And so therefore, unless they refied, then that other spouse, they do have to sign, and they do have to come to closing, and they do have to participate. So again, it's going to be one of those situations where, like, if everything's fine and they're amicable and happy and it's not a big deal, okay, cool. But if we don't know where said spouse is, they're not on good terms, there's other stuff going on, sometimes that can be challenging. And again, it's one of those bombs that you drop at the last minute, and then we have to find the ex-husband and no one knows where they are. And so anyway, it's good to kind of go over these things up front so nobody's surprised. And so also, you can make sure that, all the work and stuff that you put into listing the home, getting it pending, the sale isn't for nothing if, we have a spouse that just won't sign off or, won't work with you. So those are the things I look for. So in those events, I typically will, just kind of ask, oh, okay, so I see, we've got Bob on title here. Who's Bob? And, see what their answer is. And then, of course, just let them know, okay, so here's kind of how that's going to play out. And this is what we'll need from you, and kind of what that process will look like. So, so again, I go through, the last thing I look at down here is I typically check like the sales and ownership changes. So there's nothing really crazy here that I see. It looks like it was a Hayden Homes development. It appears that they are the second owners of this property. They bought it in 2014 for $167. So everything here looks good to me. Nothing terribly exciting. So again, back to recap, we've got a 3-bed, 2-bath house, is built in 2005, and it's 1,242 square feet. And this property happens to be in Veneta, which is a small community just west of Eugene. So the next thing I will do is I will probably, ask Annette for a time to meet when I can come out and see the property. And I've kind of gathered up here the information that I want, which is just kind of confirming what property I'm looking at, the details, the general details of the property. And then, I want to verify what type of person she is. I've probably also asked her, about any updates or improvements to the house. And again, I just want to know this because if they say, oh, it's a rental and they've totally trashed it, well, then I probably want to keep that in mind, when I'm doing my comparables, versus if they say, oh my goodness, we just did a, $30,000 kitchen remodel and all this other stuff. I just kind of want to understand what I'm walking into. And again, just make sure that when you're showing up with information, it's like the right information, and their client is going to be impressed with what you have prepared, versus feeling like you didn't prepare. And sometimes, again, it's not about if you did or didn't prepare, it's just their perception. So if you didn't screen them appropriately up front and show up with the wrong information, no, I'm not saying that's your fault, but they perceive it as this person is not a professional because they didn't bring information that was useful to me. So anyway, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to then go into the RMLS, and I'm going to take a look at some of the other features of this property. So 88060 Llama is our address. I am now going to share another screen with you just a moment here. Okay, can we see the new one? Mm-hmm. All right, so what I typically do here, first thing I'm going to do is I will go into our tax main search, and I will go define the property. And what I'm looking for here is I just want to see the old pictures of the property and any old notes. So I'm going to pull this up, and I see here we are. We've got our property on Llama. Okay, so what I'm kind of looking for the history. So I typically check all the old listings. So it looks like it's been listed twice in the past. So first, yeah, this was probably, maybe it was brand new. I don't know, maybe not. So again, the information up here looks accurate to what I had seen on county records. So 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,242 square feet, built in 2005. So I just kind of like to scan through the pictures just to kind of see, okay, what am I looking at? So looks cute. All right, kind of your typical floor plan. And again, like Hayden Homes builds a ton of homes down here. I know that they do in your areas too. And you probably have some other builders that build a lot of track homes. So a lot of times if you've seen one, you've kind of seen them all, unless again, they've done some improvements. But I like to kind of check out, see what floor plan we're looking at, that kind of thing. The other thing I do is I always just kind of look to see in the notes here if there was anything exciting that I should know about. So sometimes this is where you'll see things about flood insurance, or you might see things about an easement, or you might see things about maybe the roof was replaced in a certain year. And so sometimes that's helpful because maybe your client is the second or third or fourth owner, but you can go back in the records and see that the roof was replaced 2 owners before and what year. So sometimes, again, that can answer some questions that they may not know the answer to, or, just may not have an idea. So that's kind of what I'm snooping for. So there's that. So now I'm going to go back to the history and I'm going to check on the other one. So here, okay, so the only other thing I noticed is it looks like there was a tenant in the property when they purchased it. Again, all this looks the same information. Nobody's added on to it. So I'm going to look through. Okay, we got a nice little kitchen. Looks pretty standard. Pretty cute. Okay. Fairly basic home. I don't see anything super exciting here, but it does look like it is very nice. So the other thing I look at down here, I just kind of check all the information, make sure it all looks good, see if there's, again, any information in here that might be useful. I do notice it's got a heat pump, so I'll keep that in mind as I'm looking through my comparables and such. And then I usually look to see what they paid for it and how they paid for it, just down here. So here you see that it looks like it was listed for $165, it sold for $167, and they did a USDA loan. So likely they maybe got some closing costs added in there, would be my assumption. And they did this in 2014. I also noticed here that it sold in 6 days. So that's just a clue for me that hopefully this home was a popular home in a market that was certainly not as hot as it is now. So, it probably will sell quickly again. That'd be a clue. Where that might be something of particular interest to me is if everything else is checking out about this house and it seems to me like, well, this should sell, but I see the days on market was like 130 or just something just really crazy. Then that might cause me to ask some more questions of the seller, or maybe scrutinize that home a little closer, because I'd want to see, why did the market reject this at a time when it probably should have sold faster? And so again, sometimes those reasons are super obvious. Maybe it's backs up to a freeway, or there's a train track behind, or who knows, right? Or sometimes there's like a substation next door that you can't see in the pictures. That could totally be too. But again, I just kind of like to keep my eye on those types of details just to see, okay, what doesn't belong and what is out of place. The other thing I do, and this doesn't have this problem, but when you go to your history, you'll see like if it expired or was canceled. So it looks like at one point some seller did cancel it. It wasn't my sellers, but if I go out to the listing appointment and I notice that like they've had it listed before with another agent, canceled it, or let's say that's happened like 3 or 4 times, then it might give me a clue that I'm not going to be dealing with somebody easy to deal with, or maybe there's like a problem with the house. So I kind of bear that in mind of, something to ask. And then sometimes it's a gateway for some questions about, hey, I noticed that you tried to sell the house a couple of years ago and it didn't sell. What can you tell me about that? And usually what I'm kind of asking for is, okay, did the former buyers give any feedback? Was there a reason that it didn't sell? What did your agent tell you? And sometimes, like I have one that is one of my ex-buyers actually that we're going to be relisting soon. And a comment that we continuously got was that there wasn't a lot of privacy between them and a neighbor. So in the time that it's been off the last year, they've taken time to plant these really big cypress trees to block that out. So we tried to remedy what the previous issue was. If your seller tells you, oh, this was always a problem, and you walk in again and they haven't fixed that problem, then it might be a good opportunity to suggest that, we maybe do something to address it so that we don't continue to get this feedback again and have another expired listing. So again, just a gateway for some more conversation. So next thing I want to do, I've now confirmed all the information. I've looked at pictures. I've done a little research. I'm feeling good about what I know. There's nothing really weird here, nothing that stands out. This all looks to be pretty straightforward. So then what I will do is I will begin pulling my comparables. So I go into search, I go to advanced MLS. This is going to be fairly easy because it's just going to be Bonita is really the only, so that would fall into Westland properties. Now, one thing I like to mention is I think we have to remember that the way information gets into the RMLS is because is agents that input the information, right? And sometimes agents make mistakes. And so sometimes you will find the comparables that you're looking for because maybe information was erroneously put in. So some great examples of that would be in Eugene, for instance, we've got a couple areas that overlap. So like River Road and Santa Clara. So there's certainly a dividing line there, you know, where those where one property should be on one side and one should be on the other. Sometimes agents get it wrong. So when they do that, you might have a property that's like a block away from your subject property that would be a great comp, but because you only selected River Road and some agent accidentally put it in Santa Clara, it's not going to come up. And then your seller's going to ask you questions about that house because they walk their dog by it every day. And why wasn't it on your report? And that was a great comp. So sometimes you have to be smarter than the other agents and go in and like select more areas, and then you can weed it down after you get your results. So this one is going to be super easy, but I'm sure in other areas you guys have similar situations there. You know, so I probably just would bear that in mind. The other thing that I see done a lot that is erroneous is so we have our category for properties is detached. And so that indicates it is a detached single family residence. Well, there are some agents that think that means a detached garage. So they will put their listing in as attached because they think it means garage. So again, you have an opportunity that you might miss some comparables that might be really good to have included just because you're dealing with agents that like put stuff in wrong. So anyway, just food for thought. You just want to make sure you're thorough here. So, so 236 is our area. It is residential. For our, what I'm going to look for. So I'm going to look for coming soons. I'm going to look for actives. I'm going to look for bumpables. None of those will I add into my report. I just want to see what is out there right now because I want to see what we're competing with. I want to see what's coming up. And I just kind of want to get the full spectrum of the market right now initially. For pendings, I mean, I'm going to just put three months. Solds, I mean, in our market, things are selling in, 2 weeks. So 6 months is probably too far to go back. But I'll probably do that, or like 3 months. I might just do 6 just for fun, just so we have more to look at today. But then obviously, like I'm going to take into consideration something that sold in, like November, October of last year versus a month ago, because prices have likely gone up. So anyway, for now, we'll just do that. And then I'll also probably do sold, not listed. I'll put that in for 6 months too. Sometimes you're going to have things that sold off market. So I'll just do that as well. So, okay, update. And then here, total square footage. So the one we're looking at is 1242 square feet. I usually want to go, maybe a couple hundred over, a couple hundred lower. So I'll probably, for that, I'm going to go up to 1,500 and I'll start at maybe 1,000. And then I'm going to whittle them down. With this particular property is a Hayden home. And so Hayden built 500, houses that had 1,242 square feet. So when I go through this, I'm going to you probably just only use those. But I might find some that are the version up from that. That's like the 1,400 square foot one. So we'll just go through it together. And then year built. So this was built in 2005. So I'm probably going to I'll just go like 1995. And then I'm not going to leave anything because I happen to know they have been building lately. So I'll get like the newer ones too. So I'm going to hit count. Looks like we have 28 properties. The last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to just select the city because I want to narrow that down as well. Okay, so we've got 24. So let's see what we got here. Okay. So it looks like we have quite a few here that we can go over. The one thing I didn't do is I didn't take out manufactured homes, silly me. So I'm going to select all records. I'm going to take out the manufactureds and the in parks because that's not what we're working on here. And then I'm going to look and I see, okay, so most of these are right around that 1,200 square foot, mark. So I will then select report. I'm going to go agent full because I want to kind of go through and sort of cherry pick these myself. So don't know how this one got in here either. That looks like a manufactured home. Interesting. Okay, well, we're gonna take that out. Here, this one on Rendezvous, so it's right around the corner from the property. It's 1412 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath. It is the same builder, and it's not in the same subdivision, but it's super close. It is newer, so I'll take that into consideration, but I'll probably leave that here. We've got this sold here. It is a couple things I don't like. Well, okay, so here's some great things. So 1,395 square feet. It is 3-bed, 2.5-bath. So I'm probably not going to use this as a comp because it's a 2-story. We're looking at a 1-story. I don't like it, but what I will say is I'm noticing here the days on market was 26 days, and that is just absolutely crazy in this market. I do notice that who it was listed with. So this is a for sale by owner company. So it was basically for sale by owner. So that could potentially be why it was on the market for so long. Sometimes that can be an issue. So I'm going to take that out too, but something to look at. We've got this on Oak Island, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,426 square feet. It's a little, maybe a little bit bigger, and it sold. Let's see, yeah, sold in 10 days, but it was back in October. So I'll probably take that one out. So I really just want ones that are in that neighborhood. And it's going to be a really good comparable. So here we've got 1,214 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. This one was built in 2002, so it's a little bit newer, excuse me, just a couple years older. But I think it's probably still a good comparable to keep in. So, I just want to make sure that whatever we're comparing it to are, reasonable. Looks good to me. This one, I don't know why it keeps including manufactured homes, but again, that's another great lesson as far as we get what the agents put in. So sometimes they put them in wrong, and there you go. Here on Rhapsody, this one would be very interesting to me. And so I guess here's why I would discount this as a comparable. First thing I noticed is all the other ones we've pulled so far, they've sold in like the 340s. This is 291. So that's weird. But it's a great comp because it's basically the same house, 1,244 square feet. It is, I believe, like a couple blocks away. But I notice here that it looks like the tenants purchased the home. So that's probably, I'm sure that the landlord gave them a discount. So I wouldn't use this in my comparables because that 291 sales price is going to skew everything, and it's going to significantly drop my price per square foot down. So I will take that one out right away. This one, okay, this is brand new construction, and it's again that for sale by owner one. So I'm going to take that out too. Okay, this is right down the street from the property. It's a little bit smaller. Looks like they did have multiple offers, so I like to kind of look at that and be able to relay that to my seller. Sold in 5 days, but it was 5 days because they did an offer deadline, as we can see here. And it looks like they listed it for $299. It sold for $320, and it was FHA, so that's cool. Kingpin. This is a different builder, and I just know this because I know the area. So this one I probably am going to take out because it's a little bit bigger, different builder, and a different subdivision. I'm not always this picky, but when I have so many comparables to choose from, then I might decide to be a little pickier. So this one on Pine, this is literally it's like in their backyard. Slightly bigger, 1,492 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath. It was built a year later, so same builder, same subdivision, all that is the same. And it looks like they had an offer deadline. So again, I will assume multiple offers. And yeah, 3 days at $345, likely that went for more. This one on Greenlee, a little bit newer, but it's, I'd keep this because it's similar. And again, they did have an offer deadline. I noticed that again, it sold for more. So 324, it sold for 337.9. This one on Lindsay, it's pending. I don't give as much weight to pendings because we don't know their actual sales price. We just know what, they were listed for. But I keep them in mind just to kind of see. The pendings tell us the story of like what's going on right now. Solds tell us the story of what happened, 30 days ago, 45 days ago, 90 days ago, right? So that's again why I kind of look at actives too, because sometimes it'll kind of tell me what's going on in the moment. And then this one I don't like because it's only got a 1-car garage and I've got enough comparables, so I'm gonna probably just take this one out. This one, again, it's like literally a block away, so I'll probably keep it. 3-bed, 2-bath, 1214 square feet, so it's really comparable. Built in the same year. I like all that about it. It does have a new furnace and heat pump. All that's good. Again, I noticed it sold for more, only 10,000 over this time, so that's cool. Got another one here on Pine. So again, like literally right behind the house, 1,300 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath. There you go. And so what's interesting here on this one is that it looks like it just actually sold for list price, which most things are selling for a lot more right now. So that's odd. Maybe a little bit. See if there's any notes. It says that it was sold as is. New roof. I don't know. No one knows. And then we've got Oak Island. I might use this one too. Again, all those metrics are about the same. I do notice that this had, maybe there's a problem with the carpet or the flooring because it's got a $2,500 credit. So again, that's the stuff I look for. Looks like we have a converted garage. So I'd probably keep that in mind too. And yeah, didn't sell for much over, but a little bit over. This one I'll take out because it's in kind of a different neighborhood. And again, I just know that because I know the area. It has a 1-car garage. I don't like it. This is important to me because again, this is a coming soon. So I just like to know, what will be hitting the market likely during our marketing time. And this will be pretty comparable, so this it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,384 square feet. Price looks like it's going to be $345. And it's super, super comparable. So I'll just know that. This I'm taking out because it's again that for sale by owner guy again. Okay, so now I've whittled all down from my 24 comparables, and I'm now gonna hit agent full again with just the ones I selected. So I've got 10 here. So now I'm gonna go to do CMA report. So I have all these, so I'm gonna just kind of run through and see which one of these doesn't belong. So I'm gonna I'll look first at the year. So some of these are maybe newer than I want to use. So like this one is 2015. It's maybe newer than I want to use. If I didn't have enough comparables, I'd probably leave it because I think it's probably still a good comp, but I think in this instance, I'll probably remove it. And then, if I had any other outliers here too, I might take out, that one's right behind it. So I'll probably leave that because I think that although it's larger, the distance and being in like the proximity to the subject property maybe outweighs that for me. And yeah, everything else, all 3-bed, 2-bath. I think these are all reasonable. So, okay, so then I'm going to hit next. And okay, so then name my profile. So I usually just put their name. So again, I have another opportunity to check out my comps again. Okay, are these all in the right city? Yes. Year built, yeah, it's all roughly about the same. All the same bedrooms, all the same bathrooms. Square footage, roughly all pretty similar. And then the other thing I do look at is price because it looks like most of these are right in the 335, 330, 340 range. If I had one in here like that one for 291, I'd probably take it out because that would tell me that on average, this is where they should be selling. So if something sold for less, there was probably a reason. And again, it's going to skew my comparables, and it's going to make my price per square foot off. And the same would go for if, let's say, the highest I find here is what, 349, and like one sold for like 410, then I'd be like, whoa, there was obviously something special about that one too. I might look into it just to see what it was, but I probably would just understand that, like, again, there's probably something special. I'm not going to put that in here because it's going to again skew everything and then make my seller think that they can get way more than they maybe can, and I don't want to do that. So so here we go, graphs for us again, and then we go to our adjustments page. So you can make adjustments based upon the different properties. All of the ones we've chosen are all really similar. They all have 3 bedrooms. They all have 2 bathrooms. They all are Hayden homes for the most part, I believe, actually. So I don't have a whole lot to adjust. Where you might choose to do an adjustment would be, let's say this is not like a track home in a neighborhood where you've got a lot of really great comparables. Maybe this is like an older home built in the 70s, or it's a country property. And, you know, maybe you found a really great comparable, but it doesn't have a shop like your property does. So then maybe you decide, okay, I think that shop is worth $50,000. I'm going to add or subtract 50,000 here, which will again kind of maybe rework the numbers just to make it all jive. Where I sometimes would be careful, and like I personally don't do a lot of adjusting, is because I think that when you do that, you kind of have to have like some reason as to why you're going to adjust it, right? And you have to have some backing for like why you think, you know, the half bathroom was worth $4,000 more. And so I think it's kind of hard to, if you question, hard to defend those numbers unless you had like some basis for where you were getting those numbers. Now, again, different personality types, and I is not going to give a rip what, they're not even going to read the report. A D, they might kind of care. A C is totally going to question you on it. Now, an appraiser, every quarter, I believe it is, they get a book, and the book is like, I don't know, $1,200 to buy this book. And the book does have all of the metrics for like exactly what a half bathroom is worth in this market, exactly what a heat pump is worth in this market. So like, unless you were an appraiser and had that book and you could say to your high C seller, like, here's exactly where I got this number and this is why, and you could defend that, I probably am not going to fuss with putting it in there because it frankly doesn't matter. And if I can't like explain to you how I arrived there, I'm probably just not going to do it. So I probably won't do a whole lot here. For our subject property, I'm going to put everything in. So hold on. Here, back. Okay. Okay. If I have a photo, then I'll put it in here. If I don't, I won't worry about it. Sometimes it's fun if you have the time to drive by and take a picture. I will caution you, like, just know who you're working with. Because like, let's say it's a landlord that's wanting to sell the property and they haven't told their tenant yet, and you show up with a camera, then you're gonna freak them out. Or they're getting divorced, but the one spouse doesn't know they're getting divorced yet, and you show up with a camera outside, they're gonna wonder what you're doing. And especially now that everybody's home with COVID, just be careful and just don't cause any issues. Because I've heard of that happening before, where that tends to go really sideways. If they both, everything's cool and you think you can sneak by and just take a quick picture, then it will totally impress them if you are able to include that in your photo, because it will show that you did a drive-by, you took a photo, you created a report, you showed up prepared.
Would it be okay to use like a Google map search image, like the street view? There's no copyright issues with that?
No, And again, this is like just your like report to give to them. So like no big deal. And then the other question I've gotten about this before too is like you guys, I'm sure know that you cannot use old RMLS photos of a property unless you have written permission of the former listing agent, since they are their photos. In this case, like go ahead, you can steal it and throw it on the report. Like it's not a big deal. You just couldn't use that photo for like any like marketing. But yeah, that's totally fine too if there is a photo and if you think that photo is current-ish enough. But again, like if they've done enough, a bunch of work to it or it's a flip, I'd probably like just go take a new one. So here we're going to input our information. It is not bank owned. Here we go. Lap. There is no fireplace. There is a attached garage. Heat is forced air. It is a one level. And so here's that where I told you people kind of get messed up sometimes is property type. So you've got attached, condo, detached, floating home, in park. So if it's just a normal single family home, it's detached. It has nothing to do with the garage. It just means it is a detached dwelling that's not attached to another one. Attached would be like a townhouse style where it's like shares a wall. So again, sometimes agents get confused and put it in wrong. So just bear that in mind. Okay. And it is. And the neighborhood building, if I know the name of the subdivision, I'll put it in. If not, I might just say like Veneta. That way, looks like, again, I put something in there. Okay, so save. So then I've got my comparables. I've got my adjustments. In this case, I'm probably not going to make any because, again, I think these are all pretty comparable. So then it brings me to this page, which is going to be interesting. So the first thing I'll do, I don't want my coming soon. I don't want that influencing my price per square foot. It's kind of interesting to see it though here, I guess, graphed against everything else. But what I'm looking at is it looks like to me, you know, our average and median prices of the pendings and solds. So we've got our solds, our average was 333 and 334. Pendings are right there at 347. So again, it looks to me like prices are going up. It also looks to me like the average square footage was maybe a little bit different. In any case, I think that, you know, even just by looking at this, I could confidently recommend to the seller that probably somewhere right in, I mean, let's call it 339 to 345 is going to be probably a good price to start. For them, I like the coming soon on here because, you know, I'm saying 339 to 345 just because, you know, you look here and see your solds are right, like, you know, 333, 334. And then our pendings are kind of right in there, but then our coming soon is at 345. So really, if we are going to try to be competitive with the market and we're going to go on about the same time they are, then probably 345 or slightly under is going to be a really good place to be. Because we're going to, you know, it'll look good against that. Now ours is a little bit smaller, a hair smaller. I don't, you know, I might argue that we're in a better neighborhood just because I know the area, but nonetheless, I think again, right in that range is probably good. The other thing I look at down here is the sentence here is really powerful. So sold properties closed averaging 102.22% of their final list price, meaning, you know, again, so most of them on average, they sold 2.22% higher. So I think that it's important to show the seller that because it'll probably help them to understand that like likely they're going to get more for their property. And on average, that's what they ended up doing. Where it's also super helpful is like if you guys have buyers that you're working with, sometimes if you just do like a mock CMA report like we just did here on just a pretend property. Like let's say they tell you they want to buy a house in this particular neighborhood around this price, this many bedrooms and bathrooms. Before they're emotionally attached to something, just do a random CMA on like that property, right? Because what it's going to do is it's going to show you and show them, like on average, when you're bidding on the property, it looks like on average these are going for 2.22% higher than everything else. So if we do the math on that, I'll just do this real quick. So at 345, 222, they're on average going to have to pay $7,659 over in order to secure that property. So that's just if you have the buyer that I don't know has been under a rock this whole time and has no idea we're in like a crazy seller's market and there's bidding wars on everything. Sometimes this is a good way to show them this information without it being emotionally charged because they don't have a property that they're currently interested in. So again, and it can just kind of be a tool to help you with that and your seller too, to let them know, okay, I think we're going to probably expect to get more. And that might be if they look at this information here and they say, oh, well, that's 345. I want to list for 350. I would probably discourage that behavior because I think on average, as long as you list it within, the roughly where it should be, which should probably be 339 to 345, they're gonna end up probably getting 351 to 355, right? Like, and the data shows us that here. So I think sometimes this market has created a lot of greed issues and people just think that they can just list for whatever they want to list for. And fine, but if the market has shown us that if you list it too high, people are not going to look at it and they're not going to offer on it, right? But if you list it like right kind of where it should be listed, then you're going to have a lot of interest. People are going to jump on it and it's going to create an auction style environment where there's a frenzy, right? And that is what causes it to sell for more. If they list it for more, they're probably not going to get that. But if they, list it appropriately, like likely they're going to get way more than they ever thought that they could. And I'm sure you've heard stories of that happening to lots of people. So I would tell them that if they, let's just pretend, here's my other tool. If they say, well, I want to list it for, I don't know, 360, let's just say. Well, to me, that looks crazy because we don't have anything that's even sold for that much. But they think, well, I think I can get it. Okay, fine. And if they argue with me and I think, okay, it's the only way I'm going to get this listing, I'll indulge them and I'll take that listing at that price. But I will say, okay, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, listen, if we look at our solds here, our average and median days on the market, average is 15, median is 13. So can we agree that if we list it for 360 and we do not have an offer in 15 days, that statistically speaking, we are overpriced? And if they're a smart person, they're probably going to reasonably tell you yes. So then say, okay, great. So how about I'll even give you an extra week at 21 days, 3 weeks on the market. If it's not sold at your crazy price, then we're going to agree. We're going to drop it to 349 or whatever. But just have that conversation up front. And people are nuts. Like they may actually get it. And it's almost like funny teaching this class because like I price to sell. I don't know. Everything's selling right now. So I don't really know how you price to sell. You just price it really. In this market. But yeah, if you go too high, you probably won't get activity. But if it's priced appropriately, you should. And if they go too high and you can pull this right back out and say, okay, well, we're past our 15-day mark. We're now at day 21. I think the market's speaking to us and we're overpriced. And the second place I'd pull that stat from is in RMLS, you guys have your statistical reports that you get emailed to once a week as far as where our inventory in months is. So in Lane County, Eugene Springfield, we're at 0.6. So 0.6 of a month to me, that's, 20 days, 19 days. So again, if we're past that, like, again, dude, we are way too high and we definitely need to come down if we're going to get this property sold. Or they can just wait it out and maybe the market will catch up to them. I don't know. But I think, again, it'll probably just go back to like their motivation to get that sold. So anyway, this is how I'd use that data. That's how I would interpret that data to them. If I wanted to, I would go into this graph and it looks to me like our average prices per square foot are like 245 to 267. So if I was going to say 339.9, so we're a little bit high, but that's probably, again, because our properties, maybe on the smaller side. from these. If I were to plug in 245, it's probably gonna be way low. Yeah, 304. So obviously that'd be way low. So sometimes that metric isn't gonna serve you. I would say 345 is what the highest we should go. And then it'll graph this. So it'll show you, here you are. So nice thing to hand to your seller. So I'm gonna save that. Then cover page. So again, if you have a photo, put the photo in. I like to fill this out. And then features. So like if I haven't been to the house, I can make some stuff up that I just know is true, right? So like I could say quiet neighborhood. If I know that it's got an open floor plan, maybe I'll put that in there. If I know there's like some feature that they have just done that they're super proud of and they told me all about it on the phone, I'm going to add this on here too, because I know that, again, it's their home and they're sentimental and they want to know that you listen to them and that you care about getting their house sold. So I might add new roof, new flooring, whatever else it might be, save. Okay, content pages. So you can, if you want to add a resume, you can upload a resume. You can upload some information about your company, that sort of thing. I am pretty basic, so I just kind of give them the nuts and bolts. So we've got cover page, table of contents, comparables. There's a map, everything. So I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to generate that report. So if we had a picture, it'd be here. And then we have our table of contents. We have all the properties that we have added into our report. And they all are. It will also map them. So this dot is the subject property. So you can see we've got 2 of them nearby. We've got a couple of them up in here. Veneta is a super, super small town. So like this looks on this map like it's super far away. This is like within a half a mile. All of these are. So I wouldn't worry about it. If it's a larger area, you probably don't want them like that spread out, but nonetheless, there you go. And then I look through here. The last thing I just look at is I kind of usually look to see how much over did these go. So most of them are 103%, 107%. I also look at the terms. See, I just want to know like, what's the likelihood we're going to get a cash offer? Because that's going to be a question they'll ask me. So these are all financed. These are the pendings, it's USDA, conventional, and yeah, so they're all selling for more for the most part. And then back down here, we have that sentence again, the graph, and everything we just created. So I usually will prepare this, print it off. When I go to their house, I will bring it with me. I keep it tucked away until I have seen the house and I know that what I have just prepared for them is actually accurate. Because again, sometimes you could have a situation where you have your report all put together and you're really proud of it and you get to the house and you have no idea what's lurking in the back bedroom or what you haven't seen yet because you haven't toured the house. So I usually keep it pretty close to the vest until I've seen everything and I'm ready to really show them what I've got here. And in a situation where, let's say I came prepared and I get there and this place is either the Taj Mahal and my information is wrong because I've prepared an analysis on a house that's not as nice, or let's say it is a total piece of crap and it smells really bad and it's just terrible, then I probably just excuse myself and let them know, well, thank you so much for showing me your home. And I'm going to go ahead and come back tomorrow with my report and I'll show it to you then. Just because, again, I don't want to show them information that they shouldn't have access to, or that it's going to maybe make it look like I am not as prepared as I should be. So that is what I do. The last and final thing that I do, and I don't know that I can show this to you on here, but I'm going to try. So I use an app called Fidelity Agent. And if you guys have a title rep that you are working with, they can get you this. Either Fidelity, First American has something very similar, or call your Fidelity rep and they can get it for you. But Fidelity Agent has a way for you to create net sheets. So what your seller wants to know is, this is all well and good that I can get 345 out of my house, but what does that put in my pocket? So it allows you to, and I'll do it on my phone and kind of show you what happens here. So sales price. So I'll just put in 345. We put in our commission rate. If I think there's going to be like a repair that needs to be made, I might put in a little slush fund for that. And then property taxes. So I'll pull that off of the title or county records information and closing date. Then you hit compute, and then it will show them, if I can show you. Okay, so it basically prints this out. So it shows them exactly what their net would be and the breakdown of all of their fees, all the title fees, their prorated taxes, and exactly what they're going to expect to net at that price. There's also, it'll break down like the detailed closing costs too. Where this is helpful is like when I was brand new, I didn't really know how to calculate all that stuff. And what's awkward is they get to closing and in their mind, they were going to make the 345 minus your commission. And they didn't understand that the title company charges some fees. They've got escrow fees. They have to pay for a title policy. And these are not like super expensive, but it's several $1,000s. And so the more information you can give them upfront, and again, if you can stand out from other agents by providing this when the other agents don't, again, that's going to show them that you totally care. You're a professional, and you're helping them to walk into this situation more informed than they were. And then sometimes that's where stuff comes up too, when you're kind of going over like, okay, if you sold at this price, here's what you net. Sometimes they'll say, oh my gosh, I can't do that. I can't sell for that. I have this other loan. Oh, okay. This app also has a little feature where you can do sell to net. So if they say, I need to walk away with $52,000 exactly, you can put it in here and say, how do you net exactly that amount, and it'll work backwards for you to basically tell you your break-even number. So right now, most people aren't in a distressed sale situation. Most people, there's just money everywhere and houses are selling. So not that big of a deal. Way back when in the recession and when we were having to do a lot of short sales and in the foreclosure markets and stuff, which I lived through, that was critical. And so you kind of always needed to know like, what is our number before we get to short sale? And so hopefully we don't get there again, but if we do, it's super important to kind of have that information up front. And then that way you can make other adjustments or negotiate accordingly, or let your buyer know up front what you can and can't commit to. So let's see here.
I have a question or two.
Yeah.
Can you speak to a little about like the example you went with, like you said, was kind of in a subdivision with super similar homes. I tried to do one for my friend the other day, and they were all kind of similar houses, but his was the only one that was 2-bed, 2-bath. Like nothing else in the area was like that. They were all 1 bathroom. And so like, would you suggest just going with those houses that didn't match, or like, should I expand my radius way further, or like, what would you have suggestions?
Yeah, super, super good question. And okay, so I guess it depends. And I guess like, depending on if it's 2-bedroom, 2-bath, but was the size of it similar in square footage to everything else?
There were a lot of like, there were not a lot of very comparable homes. I was surprised. Like there were like a lot of houses were the same square footage, but were different bedrooms, or they were the same bedrooms, but not enough bathrooms, or they were all like the different, when they were built, different times, stuff like that. So I couldn't find anything that was totally comparable.
Okay. So, so I guess my first thing I would say is there'd be like 3 levels of defense I'd go through. So first of all, I'd say, okay, if it's 2-bedroom, 2-bath, but everything else is a 3-bedroom, well, is the square footage similar? And if the answer is no, then I guess the 2 other things that I can do is I can go 2 ways. I can go further in distance, or I can go back in time. In this market, when things are selling so rapidly, and I mean, we had here 17% appreciation from last year to this year. Like, I don't know that I'm going to go back in time further, because I think that what I'm going to come up with is going to be priced lower, and I don't think it's going to be maybe a good comparable. So I probably would go further in distance and see, can I find another 2-bedroom, 2-bath that is maybe 6 miles away versus the 2-mile radius that I had, or 10 miles away, and can I defend why that would be a comparable neighborhood. And Eugene, you know, we have neighborhoods that like appraisers will pull from, like in Santa Clara, if you can't find a good comp there, you could pull something from Hayden Bridge because it's also like a county area next to the city, right? One's Eugene, one's Springfield, but they could do it. And then they could defend why they did that. So that would probably be the next thing I would do. You know, I mean, it probably depends on the situation, but or I would just kind of say, okay, what the last thing I do is I figure out, okay, what's the average price per square foot of similar homes nearby, just that have the similar features, similar floor, similar countertops, some, you know, that kind of thing. And then maybe apply that to this and see, okay, does that make sense?
Would you not default to that adjustment page though? I mean, like, I guess, like you said, appraisers are the ones that know the actual, like, what a bathroom is worth, but
I mean, you totally could. And you could just say, okay, I'm going to deduct 10,000 for a bedroom, or however you wanted to do it. I think you probably just would want to spend a little bit of time, maybe figuring out how you're coming up with that number.
yeah.
I don't know that.
That's the tricky part, is knowing what stuff is worth.
Yeah, and again, it depends on who you're working with. You know, like if it's a really high C personality, like you probably want to have a lot of data to articulate why you got to that. If they don't really care, you know, I mean, you can kind of just go through gut. I mean, honestly, like, and some of the things that I do now, I mean, it's just a gut thing. Yep, that's going to solve for that. And that's just 16 years of doing this, right? Like, and so, and I think, you know, you get to like where I'm at and people just really don't question me anymore. They just say, okay, fine, where do I sign? So, but being newer, probably you'll have to have more like data to support why you think certain things. So yeah.
I have a question. Is it common to call an appraiser and ask their opinion on an adjustable?
Yeah, you could. I mean, you would probably want to have like know them or like have some sort of relationship with them. But yeah, I mean, you could ask them.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've had some really weird, you know, just crazy properties that I have no idea. So I've called them and just been like, hey, what would you do? How would you appraise this? What would you say? So yeah. Anybody else?
Also, how many comparables should you typically include? What's the average?
I mean, I'd probably go like, I mean, the lowest you would do would be like 3. I mean, ideally, you'd want to probably have like 4 to 6-ish. You wouldn't want like 20 would be like way too much.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Questions? Anything else?
I know that there are a few agents in our office who will pay for CMAs. I know, especially as new agents, it will be important for us to be going through and doing those manually. Do you still do your own CMAs through the MLS, even being pretty experienced in the business?
What do you mean they pay for
them? Specifically, it's our team leader who mentioned that she gets hers done by a third party, and I don't know if it's like for marketing and how an appearance-based stuff.
Well, okay, the only thing I could think of, okay, my thoughts on that would be there are some other like, what is it, Cloud CMA is a program you can buy. And I
think that's it, iCloud or something, some kind of cloud something.
Okay, so I mean, I guess to me, maybe I'm just an old dog and this is what's always worked for me, that's what I'm going to use. Yeah, there's tons of shiny, fun products out there. I mean, ultimately, like, I just think it boils down to your client doesn't care, right? They really just don't care. They just want to be taken care of, and they just want to sell the house, and they have a goal, and the goal isn't selling the house. The goal is typically we need to get into a bigger house, or the goal is we're being relocated, and so that's what they care about, right? So I think ultimately, like, whatever program you do the report in is probably less important as just showing up and caring and listening to them and like, seeing what's at the root of their move. So, and I think like new agents too, like it's not fun because like, you're bombarded with all these new programs and things to pay for. And, a fool and their money will be soon parted. And so I would just know, like, you've got these programs for free and they're going to do the same thing. And I think it's just really who you are, your attitude, and how you show up that's going to get you the business. So.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And then as a sort of a secondary question, I know you were saying with the way the market has been so volatile, you're not exactly sure how many months to include previous, and then the market's going to continue to change. I guess it's been going up. It's either going to keep going up, it's going to flatten, or it's going to go down. But either way, I feel like for us as new agents, we're going to continue to be in this period where we're pulling comps from a shorter time period for a while. Is that correct? Because if the market goes down for a couple months, 6 months, there's still going to be massive price fluctuations. So do you think 3 is like sort of a safe number, unless we just don't have enough accurate comps?
I do, yeah. And then even in the 3, I probably I'm gonna give more weight to what sold within the last 30 days versus the last 90. Because things are, they're moving so rapidly. It's just insane. And to the point where, I've had clients that, let's say they were talking about selling like last October and November, and we did a CMA and I said, here's what you could get. And that was, they were happy. Well, then something happened and they didn't sell. And now I do another one and they're up like 50 grand. Like, it's insanity. So yeah, I probably look at everything. Again, I think it's just like being an expert on like their house. So sometimes there was a house that sold 6 months ago next door, and they just don't remember it was 6 months ago. So like, you probably aren't going to use that, but like I'd want to know that it happened, because they might be like, yeah, my neighbor sold their house for this much. And so I just wouldn't want to be caught off guard with information that they had that I didn't. The other thing I do, so I don't trust Zillow, but I do look at Zillow. And I do it because I know that before I got there, my seller went to Zillow and they went to Redfin and probably Realtor.com to see what they said about their house. So I kind of just like to know, like, okay, what estimate idea do you think that you have here? Just so I can just kind of know probably what they're thinking. Other thing I'll mention about Zillow, like, I don't trust them, but the consumers do. And so like, I have had situations before where they're like unique properties. So I have one right now on Gimple Hill in Eugene, and Zillow, the Zestimate, when I went to meet with them, the Zestimate I think was at like 463. And I was like, yeah, it's going to sell for way more than that. But they've owned the home for like 25 years. So it's never sold. Zillow doesn't have the information or the algorithms to produce maybe an accurate estimate, because that's how they get their information, is the tax records, recent sales. And so if it hasn't been listed, like, Zillow has no idea what's inside that house. So it said 463. And I was like, yeah, I think we can get more. So we listed for 539. So a lot more. Well, as soon as we did that, within like a couple days, the Zestimate shot up to 571, right? So is it accurate? Absolutely not. It's not accurate, but it uses all that data and like how many people have clicked on that house to inform how much it thinks it's worth.
So you're obviously, you said you're arming yourself with that information before you get there. Are you, you're only bringing that up though if the client references one of those sites in terms of how they want to price it, right? Like, you're not going to preemptively, yeah, got it.
Nope. No, I'm not. I just like to know. Now, if I'll shoot you straight. Like, if I have a situation where I can't figure out where to price this stupid house, like there are no comps, or I'm at a complete loss. So sometimes I've got properties in crazy outlying areas. Like I have one right now in Idana. Exactly, where's that? Everybody looks at me like I'm nuts. Okay, so it's by Detroit Lake. So it's like basically in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And it's right where all the wildfires were. So everything's burned down. This is like the only house that didn't burn. So I had no idea where to price this silly thing, because there's no comps. at all. And so I did, like, I looked at Zillow for that because I just want to know, like, what does Zillow say? What are the consumers going to look at? What did my seller look at? Give me something to help me corroborate where I'm at, I guess, you know. But no, I don't bring it up. I just like to kind of know what they have in their head because they've surely looked at it. So
Awesome. Thank you.
I have a quick question. So you've done a CMA on a house. How do the neighboring houses affect the value? Like if it's, you know, right across the street from a house that's been abandoned, or there's squatters and, you know, in a house that's like down the street, like how does traffic affect the value?
Okay, so that's a great question. And it's another one of those, like, how do you assign a value to those things? Okay, traffic's a thing. Traffic's a total thing. So I would say, you know, if it's on a busy road or a busy corner, or let's say it backs up to a freeway or whatever, I'd say your number is 10 grand. It's worth 10 grand less than anything else. And that's probably what it is. So I'd price it there. Now, again, if you price it low enough, like same deal, you'll probably get offers that are higher. But if you tried to price it in line with everything else that didn't back up to a freeway, people wouldn't perceive value at that price. So I think you have to adjust it initially. And again, you'll probably go for more. But that's what I would do. Squatters in a house or other factors like that. Like if it's something that, like, it's going to be remedied at some point in the future soon. Probably okay. You know, I mean, people are probably still going to buy. Like, you might want to, like, find out from your seller what's going on with that situation, just so, like, when you're questioned by other agents, like, you have an answer for them. But like, yeah, I mean, they'll get out of the house. So it's going to be a temporary thing. I don't think that'll impact it much. Permanent things, or like if there's going to be a new development put in behind the house, or something that people are not going to be happy about, then, you know, that might impact the value negatively. So
I have a story kind of that goes along with this. So the house I live in now, actually, the woman who sold it, our neighbors next door have these 2 dead cars in their driveway, and they've had them forever. And she actually paid to buy them car covers to cover them so they don't look so horrible, because the initial people were not liking it when they were looking at the house. So that was something, like, I don't know if the agent suggested she do that, but that was like her nice way of like, hey, would you mind if I bought these covers for you, instead of being like, your cars are disgusting, I hate them, which I'm at now, and I'm gonna try and deal with them on another level. But anyway, so that's just a suggestion. Maybe as you could talk to your sellers, like if you know their neighbors suck and it's going to detract from the value, you can maybe offer to remedy that a little bit, like clean up their yard or something. So,
totally. Yeah, no, I've had people do, like, pay landscapers to do their neighbor's yard. Like, so, yeah, no, great example. Yeah, so cool. What else?
Can you speak to, just kind of confirm, I've had other agents tell me this, but like, just confirm, you do not suggest a specific selling price. You'd give your clients a range and then tell them the strategy based on going low or going high, but ultimately let them decide the list price.
I mean, I think usually, like, I think that we can, our job is to give them the data and help them to interpret it. But ultimately, it's their house, wherever they want to price it. And, you know, I mean, I've taken listings that are crazy overpriced, but here's the deal. If you have a listing and you market it correctly, you should sell one other house and get at least one other buyer. So to me, even if this is an asinine price, like, this is marketing and it gives me something to advertise, it gives me an open house to do, I don't really care. I hope I sell your house because that's, like, what I'm here to do. But, like, I mean, I had one guy want to sell his house in Eugene, and I told him like 575, and he said no, 645. I said, you're crazy, but I can't tell you how many houses I sold because people called me, looked at it, and said, are you guys nuts? Well, we don't want this, but we like you, so can you sell something else? Yeah, I'm going to use that thing as bait. You bet. So, and, you know, when they have the conversation and they get mad because their house isn't sold, then I just bring them back to the CMA and here's the data again. Here it is. And, you know, you can use all those showings as feedback to, like, why, okay, well, here, they saw more value in this house and that's why they chose this one, you know, or it was your neighborhood or whatever. So, yeah. But if they're easy to work with and they're gonna do that, fine. But if they're going to be a total pain and yell at me every week for the price that they chose, then I mean, I probably wouldn't have time to do it. If I was new, I might, because yeah, I mean, I'll take the abuse. I'll get yelled at to make several thousand more dollars, you bet. But I mean, just kind of depends on where you're at with that.
So when a buyer contacts you about that listing and says, "Are you crazy? That's way overpriced." What's that conversation like?
I just ask them when they'd like to see it.
So how do you win them to like, I don't like that price, but I like you? Like they're gonna see you as the person who chose that price, even though it was your seller.
Not typically.
Okay, cool.
I mean, so okay, so it's a great question. I think the house is really overpriced. Are you crazy? Okay. Well, I appreciate your feedback. I'm not going to answer their question. I'm just going to keep putting them off, right? It's a script. I can outscript them. And so as long as I can outscript them and I can get them in the door, I can form that relationship and I can sell them another house. Now, if I say, "Yep, you're right. Sorry, we just ended the conversation," and I don't get that client.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you.
Was it tough to get your, I mean, can you talk a little bit about the first house that you sold, and as a new broker, the challenges having inexperience, at least in their eyes?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so that's actually great follow-up to the question that was just asked. So yeah, so I was 18. So I sold Girl Scout cookies last year, and now I'm here to sell you a house. So I mean, there's certainly I developed a very thick skin really quickly, and and we were also 06. So then the market shortly then after tanked. So my first listing. So again, this would be like advice where somebody would say, don't take this listing, right? So it was my uncle. He had a manufactured home in a park. Okay, so that's what it was, and I think we were listed for like, I don't know, 43,000 or something like that. And we had a ton of interest in that because of the price. Well, they're really difficult to finance, and it's actually very difficult to get approved to live in the park. So I believe in my first whatever it was, I sold 17 houses off of that listing because people called me, came to look at it, they liked me, they didn't like the house, and I said, okay, great, well, let me help you get pre-approved for something else. Now, most of them saw that low price and the space rent and thought, I can afford that. Well, guess what? They could also afford a $200,000 house, which at that time was like our average sales price. So I ended up flipping so many buyers off of that one listing. And again, it was a listing that I remember when I took it, my principal broker and all the old guys at the office said, what are you doing? You're not trailer trash. Don't list this trailer in the park, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm going to do this. Well, anyway, I made certainly more than the 43,000 I sold it for. And it was obviously a great endeavor. So
That's cool. It's a good story.
I have a kind of a question. You said this market is making some people a little extra greedy. Have you had any issues with sellers who have a list price and then they get tons of offers and they get like, I don't even want to take any of these offers. I want to relist it and then remarket it as an even higher price. Has that happened at all?
They get lots of offers and then they don't want to take any of the offers because it's not as high as they wanted it to be. Or
yeah.
Well, I think you just have to be smart. Like, so you have to kind of understand like what their expectation is ahead of time. So for instance, I have a listing on North Kenzie, 2893 North Kenzie, and it's like 1,300 square feet. When I pull my comparables on that to this day, it's like it should, based on comps, sell for like 430, like 430 seems right. 430, 440. When I talked to my seller, he said, yeah, gosh, you know what I'm really hoping to get is 500,000. And I thought, shit, I don't know how we're going to get you 500,000. The comps really don't support that. They support like, I don't know, 435, like on a good day. I don't know what we're going to do. But because I knew Jimmy wanted 500, I thought, okay, where do I price this thing in order for us to get the 500 that Jimmy wants? So I said, I think let's go 468 because I bet at 468 by the metrics of how much people are overpaying for stuff, we'll get up to 5. So we listed it for 468 and he really likes the San Francisco 49ers. So I did 468,049 because he likes 49ers. He thought that was funny. people that got it. They all thought I was funny. Anyway, I got like 5 or 6 offers and we have sold it for 504,049. So there was my strategy, right? But if I didn't know that Jimmy wanted 500,000, I would have priced it where I thought it should be priced, and we probably would have gotten to like 477. So, and parenthetically add that the buyers all waived their appraisals and agreed to pay any difference between the sales price and appraised value. So the appraised value and like what it should have sold for was a complete non-factor in any of this because we were able to get qualified buyers in.
Do you find that you can use CMAs to help frame the market for buyers whose expectations are a little unreasonable?
Yeah.
Like we've been working with some out of town buyers. It's parents of people who live in Bend, and the parents are in the Bay Area, have very specific ideas, and they knowledge of real estate, and people expecting a home with the square footage they want in the location that they want at the price point they want, and not being able to get all of those things, even having told them, well, would you recommend going through and doing a CMA for one of the properties we've shown them?
Oh, for sure. And so couple things. Yeah, I will do the CMA like I showed that, like that little sentence at the bottom that says like these properties are selling for X amount over, and you'll figure out what that translates to. So again, when they're not emotionally like involved in a property, it's a lot easier to have that conversation, and I think they're a lot more receptive to it. Versus when they're like, we have to have this house, what do we pay for it? Oh, we're not going to pay that much, and then they have this attitude with you, right? But if there's no heartstrings attached, then they'll listen. So sometimes I just do that up front to be like, okay, here's on average. Now the other thing you can do is if they've missed out on houses, like go find out what they sold for. But then the other thing too, I would also sometimes just call the listing agent after it's all said and done and be like, hey, what offer did you accept? And then what happened? So where I'm coming from with that is there was a listing on 52nd in Eugene by Spencer's Butte, nice area. It was listed for $789. My clients offered $903, offered to guarantee the appraised price, said they could live there for 60 days rent free. Like we went guns blazing. Well, we weren't high enough. Apparently we didn't get the house. So mind you, 903. Well, we just saw it close and record for 845. So, right. So yes, exactly. Or 875, excuse me. So nonetheless, we still were what, $29,000 high, like we should have got it. So I know that they're sitting there wondering, why didn't we get that house? And they're crying down in California right now, I'm sure. So I would probably call the agent and be like, hey, what happened? And I'm sure what she's going to tell me is the offer we accepted was 907, but after they did their inspections, we found out it needed a new roof, and we found out it needed a new furnace, and needed blah, blah, blah. And then we credited them that much. So it'd be good to like, just know that. Otherwise, sometimes the data that you're going to share with them isn't going to make sense. And again, a lot of people will use it as a tool. They'll bid really high with the intent of bargaining down after inspections, right? So sometimes I just call the agent when it's done and just be like, yo, what happened? Like, tell me. And they'll tell you usually. So.
Okay, great. And I was going to ask, it feels like in a market like this where people are waiving the appraisal and also waiving inspections, how do you compel your seller in a market like this to agree to make those repairs? Mm-hmm. Is it something like what you were saying where they probably offered way high, and so the seller was willing to make those concessions because they were still getting way above what they listed it at?
And that's like back to the greed thing, right? Like, so it irritates me because I like to play fair. And so sometimes I'll get really cranky is if like we listed for easy math 350 and then they got 410, and then we find out they need 5,000 in repairs, and then they throw a fit about it. To me, I'm like, dude, you told the world you were willing to accept 350 for your house. You are still getting significantly more. What is wrong with you? Your house has a problem. So yeah, I see that come up a lot. I think, I think it's just, some sellers will, if there's an issue that they truly had no idea that was an issue, sometimes they are like, nope, we want to take care of it. Like we don't want to, pass this issue on to somebody. We need to handle this. So sometimes that's how you get it done. if it's an issue that like any other buyer is going to have a problem with, like the roof is shot, I mean, fair. You know, but yeah, some of them just won't. And some of them will say, we're not going to do anything. We have 4 backup offers. We don't really care. And I mean, honestly, in this market, they might find somebody that'll just pay them what they want and not want the repair. I mean,
Sure. Now, if that happens and they say they have 4 backup offers, and so they say, no, we're not going to replace the roof, even if that is something that all the buyers are gonna notice. And then you go to that first backup offer, and they get the inspection done, and they also say, hey, we want the roof replaced. Does it just continue at some point until the seller realizes like, oh, I'm gonna have to do this, so we can actually make the deal?
I mean, yeah. Mhm. And anytime the buyer's agent and the other agent is giving me static and telling me that we've got all these backup offers and we're not going to take your offer, I'll just continue to push, and I'll push and push and push until they like really tell me no. Because a lot of times they will concede, but you're going, just, it's a poker game, right? So
I have a question. It makes sense that people would waive appraisals, but how do you advise your clients about waiving inspections? It seems crazy that you would buy a house without making sure that, you know, the foundation isn't in trouble. Or
I don't ever let them buy them without an inspection. I
you
mean,
don't.
no, I don't. But okay, I mean, again, great example. So there's a house on Vincent in Eugene off of Harlow Road that it was listed for $475, sold for $675. It was a piece of crap, let me tell you. And I don't know why anybody would pay that, but they told me of the like 11 offers they got, mine were asking for inspections, and they said like 7 of them had waived the inspections. Which I think is just crazy. I mean, I would never suggest a client do that. And I think part of that comes from my experience in 06, 07, 08, 09, 10, right? Like, you know, I was at the kitchen table with people that were in a crazy market like we're in and made really poor decisions. And we're now sitting across from each other and they've lost both of their jobs. They paid way too much for the house. They didn't get it inspected. So it has all these problems, right, that they agreed to accept because they couldn't find another house. And here we are talking about a short sale and how we're going to completely ruin your credit. So I just am super protective of my clients, and I don't want to have those conversations again. So if push comes to shove, I will say that I will shorten the inspection period to like maybe 8 days or 5 days, whatever I can get away with. But I'll put in there, the inspections are for buyers' informational purposes only, seller to make no repairs. And so a lot of times that's the seller's fear isn't that you're going to get it inspected. Their fear is that you're going to use it as a tool to negotiate. So as long as we just take that out of the
Equation.
then okay, whatever you want to inspect, okay, fine, inspect it. And then it gives my buyer the opportunity to back out if there is an issue. And then they can just pull. But you know, a lot of times though, if they're like to what you're saying, a foundation issue or something crazy that the seller didn't know about, we didn't know about, again, this is going to be a huge problem for anyone. Then a lot of times you'll find that seller that wasn't negotiable, they become negotiable.
Mhm.
So and the only people I will ever let like waive inspections would be like let's say it's a contractor, they own a construction company, they're going to flip it, like, okay, I'm maybe less concerned, but, and I'll even just pay for it myself if it's like, you know, the person that just is trying to do it to save money. Like, I don't want them to buy something that is going to cost them more. So.
Mhm. It's a great answer. Thank you.
Okay, good.
I have kind of a hypothetical on the situation you mentioned when like your clients offered 900 and something and it ended up selling, like they the buyer who did win it got a bunch of credits to bring down the final price. What if, as a listing agent, you accept this $900,000 offer, and then those buyers are asking for all these concessions? What if the seller was like, you know what, never mind, can we not work with these people anymore? Can we go to that other $900,000 offer that was there? Like, would you as the listing agent like call that buyer's agent and be like, hey, do those people still want to put that offer back in? Now that we know the roof is messed up or whatever.
Yeah, I would call them and I would see if they're still interested. Would they still be interested in moving forward should the other deal not work out? Ultimately, like the sell, so only a buyer can get out of a deal. A seller can't get out of a deal. The seller can only get out of a deal if the buyer chooses to terminate, Or if the buyer gets to the closing date and they don't close, then the seller doesn't have to extend. But the seller can't be like, I don't really like you anymore. You're not fun to work with. I'm gonna go to these other people.
But they could be really like disagreeable, right? They could be like, well, no, we're not doing any consent. They do everything they can to try to turn off that buyer.
Yep. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But if the buyer knows the game that they're playing, then, you know, it's kind of up to them to decide, okay, I'm going to accept the issues and still buy it, you know, or not. So.
And at what point is the seller locked in, when they agreed to sell the house to the buyer? Yeah.
I mean, so like, but there's little tricks, right? So like if your buyer didn't deposit their earnest money within the 3 banking days on time, well, that contract is now null and void. So they could say, nope, never mind, I'm not selling you anymore. And that would be legal. But really the only way a seller can get out of it is if you get to the end of the time period and it hasn't closed yet, then they can say, I'm not going to extend. Anything else? These are great.
How do you market your listings?
Well, I mean, especially now, a lot of internet marketing. So like a lot of Facebook, a lot of social media, virtual. I think like especially with the birth of COVID, I mean, everybody wants it virtual. The 3D tours, all that kind of stuff, I think is super cool, super helpful, and helps people to feel like safer, you know, with that too. And then they are vultures right now, those buyers. So I mean, there's
You
kind of
don't do as
there's
much.
not a lot. I mean, there's not, I mean, in the past, you know, I would maybe you know, do like some postcards or maybe put an ad in the paper. But again, I mean, most of that's really to advertise yourself and your listing, right? Like, I mean, the house will sell itself.
Are those live? Are those 3D tours live? Like, do you customize those for the clients? Like, do you roll through there with a phone and be like, oh yeah, here's the bathroom? Or do you make a pre-recorded video and just send it to everybody?
So I have my photographer go through and they've got like a fancy 3D camera, like a zero gravity camera. And so they put those together. And then they're interactive. So like the client can like go through and, you know, tour the house themselves basically. I do like, I mean, I have kind of a decent following on like social media and stuff. So I usually will just do my own little like Insta story, Facebook story, whatever, of like my own little tour through the house. And now, but the key is, I think right now in this market, like it's expediency, right? So like once it hits Zillow, everybody's seen it. But where the people find value is if you're going to offer them something before anybody else can see it. So like if you're going to flip that thing live, Zillow's got, you know, a couple hour lag time. You start posting that thing like immediately, then that's where you're going to get those leads, is in that first like 3 hours.
Any suggestions for, I think I pretty well understand the script in terms of talking to a FSBO and bringing them a buyer, but in terms of trying to convert that FSBO and get them to let you represent them, especially in today's market, is that sort of a lost cause? Maybe don't divert your energy that way, or?
I think the tough part is that things are like selling. And I think buyers are so desperate, like they'll buy anything right now. So the FSBO probably has a fairly good chance of selling it. Where they're sick and where you can make them better is what they don't like. They are scared. Okay. They think that they're going to save all this money, but they're actually very scared. And they are really annoyed with all the people that are calling to look at the house, and they're exhausted because they have to keep showing it and they have to keep showing up to do that, and they keep getting all these questions, and then they're getting agents and buyers that are probably trying to send them contracts that they don't understand. And so they don't really understand how bad of an idea this was until they kind of get into the thicket, and then they're like, what have I done? So I think really your value proposition with that is, you know, hey, you know, I'm here to do, you know, help you navigate through the paperwork. And, you know, this is obviously a huge sale and represents probably a significant amount of money for you. And so I think it'd be important to have a professional look it over, at least guide you through the escrow process, that kind of thing. And, I think like if you show them the average amount that they could get over, like, so on the one we just did, it was 2.22. Okay, well, that's just about 2.5%, right? Like, so, I mean, it's not like they're losing money by using you. And I think you're just getting to the fear, but sometimes they don't have the fear until after they've been bombarded with crazy realtors and buyers and the people not showing up and they miss their dinner. And I mean, like then they're ticked, right? And then they don't want to deal with it anymore.
So what you're saying is just give it time and hit them up when they're frustrated. So if you can find those FSBOs that have been on there for 2 or 3 weeks, call them up and just be like, hey, let me take that terrible decision off your hands.
That's when they're motivated. Yes, exactly.
Right. I love it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Have all your friends call them constantly.
All day, not appointments, not show. Yeah. All of it.
That's actually not a bad idea, Dave.
Break them slowly as a group.
Get my nephews to call them.
There's your tip. That's usually when they get, or when they're really sad is they will do an open house over the weekend, and then Monday it's crickets, and Tuesday they don't have an offer, and so then that's when they're sad. So they want to talk to you Tuesday night. They don't want to talk to you on Friday because they are gearing up for this open house, and by God, we just baked the cookies and we made we printed the flyers, and we are ready to go. We're doing this, and so they are hot to trot. They are excited about this. They are going to sell this house, and when they don't do it, then they're disappointed, and that's when they want that call. Yep. Anything else?
Not a question, but just this has been wonderful. And I already texted Mara and was like, I want to watch this again. So just go ahead and send me the video.
I'm glad. Good. Perfect. Cool. All right. Well, anything else?
I guess one last question. In terms of pricing, and this is less from a seller standpoint, just because we're probably working with more buyers than sellers right now. You, as someone who's listing a lot, when you're looking at offers coming in, what are you seeing that's going to really make it stand out besides the obvious, offer price and earnest money?
So what specifically is going to make?
What are you going to see on the summary sheet and say, wow, look at this, this offer's great, or I'm so glad they included this, and just anything unique that comes to mind?
I'm going to give you some tricks. Okay, so here's what, so he's writing. Okay, so first of all, that fill out the offer right, because here's the deal with new agents, and that's what probably most of you are, like the older agents don't want to work with you. Okay, you have your newness against you from jump because they want to work with somebody that knows what they're doing. So if you show up and your contract is not fully filled out and every box is checked and something is not misspelled, immediately what you have told the experienced agent is that you are an idiot. You do not know how to do your job, and what we are going to have to do is babysit you the entire way. You will not know how to get your forms, how to fill them out, and this is going to be a pain in the rear. Okay, and they're also worried about the quality of the client too, because they don't know that you vetted them or not. So number one, first and foremost, your presentation needs to be superb. So everything needs to be perfect. Include everything. Do not send them 6 PDFs with the addendums and all different PDFs, and then the letter, and then the letter from the client. Send it all as one, okay? Because when the busy agent is in there trying to print all of this off and they have 24 offers, they're going to miss some stuff, or they're going to be so annoyed that that's how it was delivered to them that they're just not even, they're not going to get your client's stupid letter. Okay. That's the other thing. As far as the offer itself, I mean, I think I would I would cut down the inspection time. So normally it's 10 business days. So if you make it 8 or 9, you're going to stand out. Do not under any circumstances ask for closing costs. Nobody does that anymore. If you can guarantee the sales price, like I've seen agents do, basically that the buyer will pay any difference between appraised value and sales price. Or they'll do something else in there. Well, they'll say that they'll pay for like an escalation clause that they'll pay $2,500 over any competing offer up to a maximum sales price of X. But then they'll also do another clause where they'll say if it's a cash offer, they'll pay 5,000 over or more to again try to incentivize the seller to take a financed offer over the cash offer. The other thing I do is sometimes I just do an escalation clause with no cap, none. And the reason I do that is because people think that's crazy. They think, well, I mean, you can't pay $1 million. Well, what happens is when you do that and you send an offer and then there's no cap on there, the only mechanism by which the seller can respond to you is using a counter offer, which again puts your buyer back in the driver's seat to accept or reject that offer. So send an offer, say we'll pay $5,000 over any competing offer, no cap, and then that forces the seller to then tell you what their highest offer is, right? Versus you sitting there and your buyer says, what do I offer? I have no effing clue what to offer, right? I really just don't know. I mean, I don't. And so my guess is honestly as good as yours. Some people, are going to offer 5,000 over, and some people are going to offer 55,000 over. And like we really sitting here right now, even the best of agents can't tell you what's going to happen. But if you do it that way, then the seller has to tell you. So that has been a way I have successfully gotten a bunch of deals.
But would the buyer then be obligated to pay that, whatever it is? If they did get some random $1 million offer, they'd have to pay $1.5 million?
No, because again, by virtue of how the paperwork is structured, the seller has to send you a counter offer, which again puts your buyer in the driver's seat to say, yes, I'm going to pay it, or no, I'm not. No, they're not it's a trick. Yes.
Clever.
And with that escalation clause, you said 2,500 was the example that you used. Is that sort of your benchmark? Like I've heard people say they don't want an escalation clause that's just 500 over because it's like you're really nitpicking there. Like really set yourself apart from the offer that you're trying to beat.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I usually, I mean, like it depends on the price of the house. Like if it's in the $500,000 range, I mean, it's probably gonna have to go at least 10 over any competing offer, but pick a weird number. Okay. Everybody else thinks in terms of round numbers. Pick something off the wall. $10,247. Okay. Because the other person that offered 10,000 over, you're automatically going to beat them by default. So do that.
You said 5,000 over if it was a cash offer.
Yeah, sometimes like if I was going to go 10 over for a normal offer, maybe I'll go 15 over if it's a cash. Because again, if you're highest, then the next best person you're competing with is the seller wants the guaranteed money. And if you're financed, you're not guaranteed because you have a loan. The cash is. So the only way to incentivize them is to give them maybe more.
Explain that a little bit further. The volatility of a financed.
Well, I mean, so if it's money in the bank, they've got the money and they can, they can go ahead and, just buy it tomorrow, right? Like we just need a title report and here we go. Versus a loan, I mean, they're handing money out left and right these days, so it's probably fine. But I mean, that buyer could lose their job. Oh, by the way, I think we just had some other COVID event and like we're gonna go into some new COVID situation. So, I mean, there could be people that, especially right now, they could experience a curtailment of income in the next couple of months, which might impact their pre-approved status or, their deal. And so, so I mean, like the cash is always king. So I think the only way to make yourself stand out is if you offer just a hair over. So, yeah, I would do that. And then the only other thing that sometimes you can do to make your offer stand out would be like earnest money. Like it's the dumbest thing ever because it's like super hard to lose earnest money. But if you make a big earnest money deposit, then sometimes it makes you look stronger. So like I've done some that are like $25,000. Why not?
And sellers requesting non-refundable earnest money, is that something where you say to your buyers like, no, let's not do, let's counter this or non-refund, maybe counter with non-refundable after appraisal, because then you would still be able to get out of the deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do it if it's after an inspection. I mean, if we have to, like, I don't ever sign them up to do that unless it's a really competitive situation.
Thanks for the tips.
How long,
Okay.
let's say you list a house on Friday the 1st of May and you get 12 offers. How, in terms of negotiating with the sellers, how long does that process generally take? Is there a timeline for your response to the offers, and how does that generally play out?
Yeah, I mean, most people right now have been doing like an offer deadline. So I would probably say like if okay, so let's say it's May 1st, then I might say offers due May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. I don't know. And then we'll review them we'll have a response to everybody by May 6th. And and sometimes it's good to put 2 dates in there, like, okay, they're due at this time, but we'll review at this, we'll have a response by this time. That way, because if you do end up with a lot of offers, I mean, and what I said about like printing them off and like have them organized, super true. Like, I mean, I'm fairly good at what I do, and I tell like there's a lot to go over with this, and so like it's nice to have a little bit of slush, like extra time, to make sure that you have all the offers, you didn't miss one, you've been able to read them and haven't missed something in additional provisions or some addendum or something, right? And can make sure you're choosing the right one. And then also sometimes it gives you an opportunity to kind of round robin the offers, because like, okay, so back to the cash situation. So let's say I've got an offer that is higher, but it's financed, and maybe they don't have a lot of money down, but I have a cash offer that has a letter about how they love the house, and I know the agent's a really great agent. Then I might say, before I meet with my seller, I might say, hey, okay, here's the deal. Here's your 2 superstars. This one's financed. I called the cash guy and I said, hey, here's the number you got to beat. Would you do it? And they said, yes. What do you want to do? So, I mean, it gives you an opportunity to kind of go back to your best ones and like see who jockey for a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. And so you would give yourself like 24 hours or maybe 48 hours to
Probably just 24. I mean,
24.
yeah. I don't want to be rushed, because I don't want to miss anything. And then like, yeah, deadlines should be deadlines. But then sometimes you have the agent that, sends it to you an hour late or like whatever. So like I would not feel good about it if I was sitting there meeting with my seller and they signed something and then there was something waiting for me in my email that was better, So yeah.
Thanks.
So would you wait if the deadline was 5 p.m. on Sunday to accept offers? Would you wait to share any offers with your client until then?
Well, okay, so great question. And again, it's like probably like back to personality type. Like, there's some people that like if they're also like, I've got a lot of clients that are high D personalities. Like I've got one lady right now, she's a retired banker, right? Like, so if I send her some stuff, it's not going to confuse her. She's going to want to sit there and read line by line through it before we meet. And it's going to save me a lot of time when I have to sit down with her. If it's somebody that's like really scared, or all I'm going to do is confuse them, then I usually send them like updates, right? So I'll just kind of give them a blanket like email or whatever about, okay, we got this one in, it's this much, just kind of the highlights, just so they kind of like are informed. But I usually won't like give them too much unless I know they're the type of person that's going to want a ton of information. Now, if I know that my client is at work and they're a high I and they're going to tell everybody what's going on, then as they're rolling in, I'm texting them, guess what? We got another one. There's a lot of emojis, and I'm going to tell them about the next one and the next one, because I know every time I do that, they're going to talk to their coworkers and be like, guys, guess what? We just got another one. And then I'm going to look like the best agent in town, and I'm going to get 7 referrals. So I will definitely play to my strengths when you know your client.
How did you learn how to assess these people with this DISC stuff? I mean, we all took a DISC profile when we signed up for KW. I read through the paperwork, but really, how do you become like a pro at analyzing these people? Is there something that you read?
No.
No?
I don't know.
So there's not really any like analytical information about there to help you out.
Well, I mean, there's a ton of books and a ton of literature on how to personality profile for sure. And so yeah, I've studied it, but I think it's just, to me, it's like how people answer questions and how they behave, how they came to me, how they write emails, how they text. You can just tell a lot about like, okay, you're a short, sweet, to the point kind of guy, so I am not going to bore you with a bunch of crap. Or she's the gal that calls and I'm going to have to be on the phone with her for half an hour before we actually get to what we're supposed to talk about. She's an I. So I mean, and I think we just have to be such a chameleon to mold and be like our clients so that we communicate in the way they want to be communicated with. So
Do you find yourself mirroring their behavior?
yes, 100%.
Right, because my mom used to talk about this stuff all the time. Like, if you want somebody to like you, mirror their body image. Like, sit like they sit, whatever. But just like get in tune with where they're coming from and go from.
Totally. Yeah, and I mirror and match all the time. So.
Might be tougher with all the masks, I guess, but
I know it is. It is a lot. Yeah.
better.
Anything else?
This isn't so much of a question, but kind of like a little shout out, I guess. I actually heard your name before I moved to Oregon because I was skiing in Colorado and was talking to someone on the chairlift and like just made a comment of, oh, I am planning on moving to Oregon. And they were like, oh, like I know a great realtor out there, Stephanie Coates. She works for Keller Williams. And I was like, oh, that's funny. I think that's like who I'm going to join Keller Williams. And they're like, oh, that's crazy. And I was like, how insane is it that like your reach has like made it
Oh my gosh.
to this lift in Colorado that I was just talking to this random human.
That's crazy. Well, super cool. It's nice to meet you then.
Nice to meet you.
Serendipitous here. Cool. Oh, very cool. Do you remember who it was? That's random.
Oh no, it was some old guy on the lift, to be honest with you.
Sweet. Cool. Very cool. Good deal. All right. Anything else? Okay. Well, I will let you all get back to your days, and I'm here if you need anything or have other questions or want me to look at offers or want some ninja tactics on stuff. I'm here to help. So
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
Can you provide contact info or like your Facebook or any of that?
Stephanie Coates on Facebook.
Just-
Stephanie Coates.
Stephanie Coates.
941. I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
There you go. Stephanie Coates at kw.com. There we go.
Thanks so much for everything. Very helpful.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was spilling a load. Bye. Thank you so much. I learned a crap load.
Good. I'm glad. Cool. Bye.
Thank you.